all the little us moving around noises.
Yeah.
Everybody get settled in here. Hello and welcome everybody to the
69th.
Is it the 69th episode? I think it's the 67th episode.
Oh, I'm 2 episodes ahead. Let's take a look on Spotify really quick. We'll see what count we're at.
Hold on, everybody. 67.
Yeah.
67 is the magic number.
It's a real legitimate business we got.
It is very, very professional. You guys know.
Professional.
Y'all know what the deal is here. I was telling Wesley about my trip to the Big Easy.
NOLA.
Nolans. Which is where I woke up this morning at 4 a.m. because our flight out was at 6:15.
Yuck.
And,
how far away were you staying from the airport?
Well, not bad. I mean, like, the French Quarter is like 30 minutes from the airport. It's not bad at all. And, you know, like, hotel prices and stuff down there, like getting a room down there, it's not bad at all. You can find places, like, in the French Quarter for, like, you know, $80-$90 a night.
That's really good.
Yeah. And, you know, and everybody's always like, oh, well, you go to New Orleans and you go to the fucking French Quarter, you fucking tourist. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
why I go there. Yeah. Like, I don't have zero. I don't want to go.
Listen, you get outside the French Quarter and things get real sketchy.
It's a little hinky out there. Case in point, our last night, so we went down there with Corey and Steven. So shout out Steven, longtime fan of the podcast. One of the things he wanted to try out down there was a restaurant called Dookie Chase.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a prolific restaurant in the area. It had like a lot to do with like the civil rights movement and stuff like that. But like a lot of presidents have eaten there, and like a couple popes have eaten there. So we went and checked it out last night, but that's where we ate. And it was square in the middle of the ghetto.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which is funny because like you go inside and it's like a very like to-do kind of restaurant, which we didn't know that going in.
No.
Well, it's like we got there, like our Uber dropped us off, and we got there and we looked on the door, and the door was like, sorry, we don't do walk-ins, it's reservation only. Yeah. And we're standing in the middle of the ghetto. Yeah. And there was like a police officer or like a security guard or something. He was like, go inside. He's like, you can't
just be standing here.
Yeah, he's like, you can't just be standing around out here before lily white motherfuckers. So we go inside and like they have a dress code. They're like, you know, no ripped jeans showing the upper thigh. Men aren't allowed to wear hats. And me and Steven both are wearing hats. I think Corey and Mary both were wearing hats. And we were like, oh man, we were like way underdressed. Yeah. And but Steven sweet talked the maitre d' into letting us come in and eat anyway. So it was really good. I had chicken a la Dookie, which was like a baked chicken breast with oyster dressing on the inside, and it had like some sauce on it and like some sweet potatoes, and Steven got a ribeye, and Mary got like some kind of like redfish, something or another. But yeah, it was really good. We ate a lot of really good food while we were down there, which is what we go down there to do.
Yeah. Well, New Orleans is known for their food.
Yeah. We went to Café du Monde.
Oh yeah.
It was noticeably less coated in sugar this time around, because they had like all around like the seating area they have like these awnings, and they had the awnings lifted up, so there was a cross breeze. When we went, the awnings were down, so it was a very contained situation in there.
Like somebody let a fog machine go.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had a great time.
Got all that powdered sugar caked on the inside of your lungs.
Yeah. We there was a development down there that we did not know about. So the last time that me and Mary were down there was in 2019. I remember it was November of 2019, I think.
Yeah, pre-pandemic.
Actually, I take that back. It might have been January of 2020.
No.
But that was before the whole thing really kicked off. But since then, marijuana has been legalized. As of 2021, it was legalized.
Inside city limits?
I guess.
Or people are just like, fuck it?
I don't know. We looked it up, and like, Mary's found something online. It was like, yeah, weed's totally legal down here. There was like food trucks, like weed trucks.
Really?
Like a food truck, but like with like weed all over it.
Huh.
And they were like, yeah, you just come up to the window, get your weed, and you go about your way.
Like an ice cream truck.
Yeah. And they were like, a couple of them had like a phone number on the side that you could call, and they would like deliver weed to you.
Really?
Like, wherever you were.
Interesting.
And I got a weed lollipop, a THC lollipop, like a little sucker. And
what was the milligram count on that?
I don't know. But we didn't want anything like really strong.
No.
And so we got these little suckers, they're like that big around, like a dum-dum size thing. And it was the night before our last night there. I decided that, I was just going to lay in bed and have my weed lollipop.
Yeah.
And I laid there and I ate it, and I was like, this just tastes like a weed-flavored lollipop. I was like, this, and I don't feel anything. Yeah. I was like, this is just gross. And so me and Mary are laying there, and I feel a little hungry. I'm a little bit peckish.
Yeah.
And I was like, downstairs, they have, like, DiGiorno pizzas.
Yeah. Like
little personal pizzas. And I was like, and that sounds really good to me, so I'm going to go get one. And, like, I stood up, put my shoes on and everything, and Mary's like, are you sure you're okay? I'm like, yeah. I was like, I feel totally fucking normal. And I walked out of our room, and I walked down the hallway, and I go to take a left to where the elevators are, and as soon as I turned left, I was like, I just walked down this hallway. And then I looked back down the hallway I came from, I'm like, this is the same hallway. And I went... I started reaching my arms out to touch the walls. I was like, oh no. And I started going up to the different doors of other people's rooms. And I was like, is this the elevator? And I was jiggling handles. And I was like, wait, the elevator's a button. So yeah, I got a little bit of a head thing going on, but I got my pizza. We cooked my pizza. And went to bed.
But it was delicious.
It was delicious. And the thing was, this was the first experience I've had with weed of any kind that I actually enjoyed.
No.
Because I was in a very safe environment. I was with people that I trusted.
No.
The last two times I was, driving. And B, I didn't like the people I was with.
Yeah, well.
But yeah, so it was fun.
I imagine it'd probably be the same way if you ever tried to do shrooms. You wouldn't want to. You probably wouldn't want to do shrooms in a very aggressive environment.
No, an aggressive environment.
like the Royal Rumble or something.
Yeah, like in WWE. Shooting off all those pyrotechnics. There's dragons everywhere.
They find you in the bathroom in a stall crying.
Yeah. I don't think I'd ever do shrooms. I don't like the feeling of not. I don't like the feeling of I don't like the feeling of tripping out on anything.
No.
You know what I mean? I want to feel like I'm in control, or at the very least, I know that I'm safe.
Right.
I'm in a safe place. I feel like even if I was on weed. If I was on shrooms and laying in my own bed, I would I would have a terrible trip.
No.
I would feel like my bed was eating me or something.
No.
I
don't know. I would do them, but I would need to be at least 20 years older than what I am right now. I got too much going on. I can't.
As far as what you stand to lose?
Yeah. I need to be much older before I travel down that road.
Yeah. What is it? Didn't Bill Burr have a whole thing about he went and did shrooms?
Yeah, his last stand up at the Red Rocks.
Yeah.
He was I just felt this sadness and aloneness.
Yeah.
And he's and then I thought about my daughters and I felt the same thing. And I went, hold on. I know what this is.
Yeah.
He's I know exactly what this is. This is how I felt growing up.
Yeah. He had a breakthrough. Fucking shrooms.
His last stand-up was really, really good. I liked it a lot.
It was good, yeah. I liked when he did that bit about what lesbians look like. He was like, if I could describe like a fireman or a police officer to you, he's like, you know exactly what that looks like. But the moment I say lesbian, you're like, oh, I have no idea what that could look like. Yeah.
I thought it was funny how he had gone on about that bit, or maybe this was like the bit before it, where he was talking about he was in New York for Pride Month or whatever when he was shooting that film where he was like the fireman or whatever.
Oh yeah.
He said that
lesbian body checked him.
Body checked him.
Oh boy.
He's such a good stand-up. I love listening to him.
Yeah, he is. I like him because he can do like, you know, he can set up jokes real well, but he's also good at like doing telling stories.
Yeah.
Like I'm a big fan of storytelling.
Right.
But also appreciated like a good joke.
Right.
That's kind of the same reason why I like Louis C.K. because he kind of does the same thing.
Right.
Like he tells a lot of stories, but he also does like a lot of like joke setup stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Louis is really good at like storytelling. I think one of the best storytellers is probably Tom Segura. Like most of his stuff is just straight storytelling.
Yeah.
Like that's really like his style of comedy.
Yeah, I like him too. Like one of Louis' recent specials, he was talking about that woman that had to get an MRI, but she was too big to fit in the machine, so they sent her to the zoo. That wasn't just like a joke he was making. That really happened. Yeah. They had to send her to like the machine they used to give elephants MRIs.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
He was talking about, she was like, hey, I'm here. She was like, I came to the zoo. He's like, oh, you here to see the penguins? She's like, no, I'm here for an MRI. He was like, oh, okay. He was like, go stand over there in the hay. You'll be right after the walrus.
Oh, God. That's one of the things I love about now is there's so many like different really, really good comedians. And like there's just a lot of material out there.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I think it's good that, especially too, like as far as comedy is concerned, there's more avenues for people to get their stuff out there. As opposed to, like, I remember back in the day, like, you would catch, there'd be, like, the Comedy Central, like, where you get somebody get up there and do, like, 15 minutes or something.
Yeah.
And, like, that really, you'd have that, and you had, like, they'd do, like, HBO specials.
Right.
And that's about it.
And you still had to, like, fight to get those spots.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I know, like, a lot of those guys, you know, a lot of comedians, especially the older comedians, you hear them talking about, like, what it was like to come up on that scene.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, you cut your teeth in these rooms that seat 20 people. Or you go and you do these, like, open mic nights and you just have to keep...
Just eat shit over
and over. And you just have to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it until, you know, you just... It's the most, you know, roll your sleeves up and just dig into it kind of thing that there is.
Like, you have to have, like, zero, like, hubris.
Oh, yeah, absolutely none.
Like at the end of this.
Yeah.
Like this after like the 5th or 6th time of just like eating shit.
Yeah. And then getting up there and doing it again.
Doing it again.
Yeah, that's not for me. It was like the one time that I did stand up, that was plenty.
No.
It was just enough of that I needed. I would never do it again. For me, well... For one, I have horrible stage fright.
Right.
And I'm not a performer at all.
No.
Like, don't watch me do anything. But, like, also writing just was so hard.
No.
Because it's hard to, like, you know, you can be funny and witty
like
kind of like in the
yeah.
moment, you know, but it's really hard to, like, take that and put it down on paper.
Right.
Because, you know, it's like, it'd be like if somebody held a gun to my head and was like, be funny.
Yeah.
I'm like, you must fucking shoot me, man. Yeah. Save both of us the time, you know?
Save me the embarrassment.
Yeah. You can shoot me and go find another guy.
Yeah. Shoot me and fuck off.
Shoot me and fuck off. funny. It sounds like that would be like one of those like famous last words things. Like before he was killed by a firing squad, he said, "Shoot me and fuck off."
Oh,
it was like who was that one guy, that Thomas French, when they killed him with the electric chair? His final words, Ray, "Here's your headline for tomorrow: French fries."
Have you ever seen the? There's like a Family Guy episode where Peter did like a Nike commercial, and he like the whole premise of the commercial was like him training for this marathon.
Yeah.
But like halfway through, it's like he's like, start training for a marathon. He's like. And then he like has like a second family.
Oh yeah, yeah. Then he had like a gay lover. Yeah. He has like all these different things.
So he started like killing all of them. He said something. He was like, he's in the electric chair at the end. He's like, don't give anybody closure, but let them know you're not afraid of hell. I think that's probably their best bit I think they've ever done.
Every now and then, like some of the newer Family Guy stuff. Every now and then they'll get one.
Yeah,
they'll get a good one there. My biggest issue with really anything long running is, of course, number one, like Flanderization of characters,
right.
But also just becoming cynical.
Right. It becomes a parody of itself.
Yeah, and that's okay to do sometimes, but it can't be your whole thing.
Yeah.
Especially because, like, if you get to a point where you have such a backlog of, like, seasons, kind of like how Family Guy or The Simpsons, as a matter of fact, you still have to treat it a little bit like, okay, this might be the first episode of our show that somebody ever sees.
Right.
So the whole thing can't just be remember this, remember that. Right. If you jumped into the episode of Family Guy where Brian and Stewie get locked in the bank vault, you know which one I'm talking about?
I think so, yeah.
You would never watch that show ever again.
No.
It's like that episode was for people who, number one, take Family Guy way too seriously, and also for people who, have been watching the show since its inception.
Right.
It's like the whole episode takes place of just Brian and Stewie in the bank vault, and they keep having like this heart-to-heart, like this, like, I don't know, they were trying to make like a artsy Family Guy episode, but they didn't even commit to it all the way because there were still like these stupid gags,
right?
Where like they try to pierce each other's ear,
right?
And like Brian eats Stewie's diaper. So you still have like that Family Guy crass humor in there, mixed with like, oh, this is going to be our version of the Breaking Bad Fly episode.
Right.
It just didn't work.
Right. Yeah, I mean, well, I think that, who's the creator? Seth MacFarlane. He has a very artsy side.
I think he does too.
So, but I think he's pretty hands off now with Family Guy, isn't he?
Yeah, I think
they have like a team of writers.
Yeah, I mean, he voices like 25 different characters.
Yeah, he's very busy.
But as far as like, writing and stuff, I don't think he has a whole lot of input there. I feel like in some of the earlier episodes, Family Guy really had its own charm. And a lot of it was, I think a lot of it you could contribute to the fact that, like, just all of those characters, like, you think about the immediate family, like Brian, Stewie, Chris, Meg, and Lois and Peter could kind of all stand on their own. Like, you could take any one of those characters and give them their own episode.
Right.
And it really worked. But then, like, they just turned Stewie into, like, a gay guy.
Right. Yeah, that was not how that character was originally written.
No, and it was like, when the original Stewie was like an evil genius.
Right.
Right? And like he
constantly trying to kill Lois.
Constantly trying to kill Lois. And then like somewhere along the way, they're like, what if we just made him gay and that's it?
Right.
And then whenever, and then if we want to forward the plot, we'll give him a device to use.
Right.
Like, I have made this thing that allows me to travel back in time just for this episode. Okay.
No.
Like, whatever. And then Peter's just a
right.
He's like an abusive right. It's like, and that's not really that fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of fell into the same deal as like Homer, where originally how the way in which the character was written is no longer the character that is portrayed on the screen in its current version.
Yeah.
Whereas like Peter and Homer especially, of course they were drunks and they fucked up constantly.
Right.
As like, but they never were mean spirited about it. Like
it's the mean spiritedness that's really off putting. Yeah.
Like they both were very like I remember there was like a Simpsons episode where like there's a picture of like Maggie, like up above like where he was working. He was like, do it for her.
Yeah.
Like the whole shtick with Homer was like he's very family oriented. He cares a lot about his family.
Yeah, he loves his kids.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know that, and we might have already covered this before, but I know like from what I've seen, like some like the current like episodes or whatever for The Simpsons, it's like one of them is like an episode where like Lisa becomes president. And then she would like just rips Homer. Like he never cared about the things that I cared about and all this stuff.
Right.
And like it's like isn't there like an episode where like he takes her to the music store?
Yeah.
And like buys her first.
He cultivates that passion for music in her.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he's a piece of shit that never did anything for you.
Right.
And it's like it's kind of a weird thing. We're sitting here bitching about Homer, but like I mean. It's kind of indicative of like the issues with writing as a whole these days.
Right.
And, a lot of shows start out cynical.
Right.
And usually those are the ones that don't last very long.
Right.
Thing like, case in point, the Velma show. I mean, that's cynicism as it can be, right?
Yeah.
And another one that does the same thing is fucking Rick and Morty.
Oh, yeah.
I mean... Rick and Morty is like cynicism the show,
right?
And nihilism,
right?
I think one of the things that really works in Rick and Morty's favor is that Rick, there's a big difference between how Rick like presents himself to like everyone around him,
right?
But the only time that wall comes down. The only people that see the wall come down is the audience.
Right.
So, like, no other characters in the show really see the vulnerability.
Right.
Or, like, he actually does care, except the audience. And I think that works because we know something that the characters don't.
Right.
But then, sometimes that can be annoying because, if you know how a character is and who they are and how they feel, when they act the opposite of that, then there's like this dissonance there.
Right.
And it makes it hard to care about that character or connect with that character. Also, Rick is written in a way that, like, it's kind of hard to put him in any situation where there's any tension. Right. Because he can just,
well, he has like the
science his way out of everything.
He has the out all the time.
Yeah. So it's really difficult for there to be a situation where you're like, oh no, how will he get out of this one?
Right.
It's just a situation. It's like, I wonder what the thing will be.
Right. And I mean, they do so much stuff with like multiple universes where it's like the Rick that you're watching now is not the original Rick that started the whole series, because the Ricks get killed off all the time.
Yeah.
So for people that have never seen Rick and Morty, like if you're wondering what the fuck it is we're talking about, like essentially it's like the same. It's like multiple versions of Rick and Morty. And so the characters that you start off with in episode 1 in series 1 are not the same two characters that you are watching in your current episodes. Yeah. Because so many like iterations of them have been killed and then brought back as another universe version of them. Right. It's like, so you're not. It's hard to like really give a fuck.
Yeah. And they did the same thing with. They've done the same thing with almost all the characters. Right. Like, who are any of these characters the original ones? Right. Because he made a clone of Beth. Right. And then you had, like, Space Beth and Clone Beth, but then they couldn't figure out who was who. And then that one episode where they dropped Jerry off at daycare, at Jerry Daycare, they went to pick him up, and they're like, oh, wait, this is the wrong Jerry. And they just grabbed another one and left, but they never really spent any time on... Right. Was that actually the wrong Jerry? Right. So now we just have this Jerry that might not be the right one. Right. And I feel like also feel like the whole multiverse thing, you know, it kind of takes away from, you know, from the stakes, right?
Right. Well, it doesn't.
Because what it's really done is it has taken away death as a permanence.
Right.
Like death really doesn't mean anything anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, you've essentially what you've done is you've taken whatever type of like stakes there are that might be attached to these characters, and you've just thrown it out the window.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, none of this really matters. I mean, we can do whatever we want at this point.
Yeah.
That's why it's sort of like we've talked about with like the Marvel movies now. It's like since they're doing all the multiverse stuff, it's like there's really no. It's like you're looking for that next, like, what's the next biggest thing we can do?
Right.
It's like the heat death of the universe. Like,
Yeah.
it's like the final.
Yeah.
We're going to destroy
Like,
that.
all the Marvel like characters are like trying to fight against entropy. I watched Infinity War on the plane ride there and back to New Orleans, and I really got to thinking about Thanos as a villain. And I think that the reason that he works so well is because he has a very clear goal.
Right.
And every single thing that he does is to work towards that goal. And he never deviates.
Right.
And it's like the closest thing he gets to like even questioning like his commitment to the whole thing is when he has to kill Gamora to get the Soul Stone or whatever.
Right.
But that's like a 2-second scene, and then he's right back to doing what he's doing.
Right.
And every time he's on screen, he's doing something.
Right.
Like I've noticed this before. Well, they'll show like the villain or like the antagonist, and they'll be in the scene where they just kind of show up and they just kind of, ooh, I'm the bad guy, and then they go to a new scene. It's like, well, what was the point of that? I know he's the bad guy.
Right.
Why did you take 5 minutes out of this movie to remind me that he's the bad guy?
It's like him sitting in a lair somewhere.
Yeah, it's like, I get it. I know who he is.
Fucking mum raw.
Yeah. Well, if you're gonna have him on screen, have him do a bad guy thing.
No.
You know what I mean? So I think that's you know, I think as far as like a well written villain goes, I think Thanos really is a really well written villain.
Right. No, I mean, if we're being honest about who carried those two movies, it is Thanos.
Yeah.
Thanos is the driving force in both movies.
Right.
I mean, you can't. It's really non-negotiable. I mean, if you were to take any other villain and stick them in there, those movies would not have performed the way that they did.
Mm-mm.
And to be honest with you, at that point, phase 1 with everyone?
Phase 1, yeah.
Yeah, phase 1 it was tired at that point.
Yeah.
And so this was like the final, like, bring it together.
Yeah, and they everything that they did that was kind of fan servicey, they earned.
Oh yeah,
because it had been so many years in the making, you know. And I also thought, like, you know, I mean, it's a Marvel comic book superhero movie. Okay, the good guy's going to win.
Right.
Like, nobody's really like thinking, what if they don't win? Because we know that they will.
Right.
So even then, the tension, you know, it's hard for that tension to exist when you know how that everything's going to work out in the end. And I think that's why Infinity War, you know, it works out so well, because he does get all 6 stones and he does kill half of the universe.
No.
And all of the characters react to that in an appropriate way. Like not even until halfway into Endgame.
Right.
Are the characters like, there might be a chance that we could undo this. Like,
Right.
the whole first half of that movie starts with, it shows them kind of accepting the reality of the fact that they lost.
Right.
It was never like, you know, so when Infinity War happens, he snaps his fingers, everybody turns into CGI dust,
Right.
and then he goes away. There wasn't one character who was like, oh, but don't forget, we have the magic MacGuffin,
Yeah.
you know, to be continued.
Right.
It was like, we fucking lost.
Right.
See you next summer.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that was really well. It was really well done. I like when, you know, shows will. I like when shows have a villain who's competent.
Right.
And not some like bumbling idiot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just some punching bag for the good guy to show up and beat up.
Yeah, I mean, because it takes away, because the villain doesn't mean anything at that point. Like, if you're just using, like, as villain as a stand-in to tell the story for the good guy.
It just gives the good guy something to do.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the story of the villain is as important, if not more important, than the story of the hero.
You could even argue that the villain needs to be more compelling than the hero does.
Yes.
Because especially if you know, and again with Thanos, I mean, like he wasn't nihilistic. Like he never felt like, you know, oh, I'm going to kill all these people because life doesn't matter. He was like, I'm going to kill all these people because I believe that needs to be done in order for the rest of what's left to have a good, you know, prosperous existence.
Until everything starts fucking again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. And they even kind of go to a length to show that maybe that's not such a bad thing.
Right.
Because, you know, they talk about how, you know, a lot of like the water's clearing up.
No.
And like, you know, he mentions to Gamora in the first movie that, you know, after he killed half the population of her planet, you know, when she was a kid, like, ever since then, that whole planet has like lived in peace and prosperity because there was plenty to go around for everyone. So it's kind of the movie's really asking you to consider like, you know, yeah, what he's doing is bad, but it works.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Which is I think is a lot deeper than you could ask of a Marvel movie.
Right.
Especially nowadays.
Yeah, well, like, what they were proposing in those movies, you're not going to see that again with a Marvel movie.
No.
That's not in the formula.
That was like a one and done.
Right.
Yeah. Unless the guy's like, oh, I'm going to kill half of the quantum realm. Oh, Jesus.
I was looking, apparently, the Super Mario Brothers movie has outperformed, I think it was all the other movies so far this year, as far as like box office is concerned.
It's done really well.
I think they're up at like 800 something million.
Nice.
So
I know that makes Nintendo happy.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Nintendo had reservations about that for a long time.
I can see why they would have.
Well, considering what happened the first time they made a Mario movie, they were like, never again.
Right.
Never fucking again.
I heard there was a couple things they stepped in on this one, too, about, like, I think with some of, like, their storytelling. They were like, no, we're going to do some fan service here.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that Nintendo was hands-on.
Oh, for sure.
With the movie.
And you can't blame them. You can't blame them for being that way.
Not after,
well,
after that last one.
I mean, it's Mario. That's their biggest IP.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's you know, the pillar of what Nintendo is that fucking little Italian man.
Right.
He's holding up the whole thing by himself. So yeah, I definitely don't blame him for being hands-on with that.
Well, I think that after they saw how well received Sonic was post them making the changes that they made to the character,
they probably felt a little bit better about making that choice.
Because apparently, I guess after they made the changes, I've watched both of them with Autumn, and I like them both. I thought both the Sonic movies were really good. Yeah,
I saw the first one, and my opinion of it was, this is kind of, you know, exactly what I expected it to be.
It's a kid's movie.
It didn't blow me away. Right. You know what I mean? Like, this is a movie for kids who like Sonic, and that's all it needs to be.
Right. It doesn't have to be, like you said, it doesn't have to be Citizen Kane.
No, it doesn't.
Like, just be what it needs to be.
Yeah. But I also kind of feel like after seeing like how, you know, the Mario movie came out and how well it's done, you know, the Sonic movie probably would have done well as a fully animated movie.
Probably.
Rather than like a mix of live action and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as what they did with the, you know, the live action mix and everything, they, you know, they did it really well.
Yeah.
But I just was thinking about, mixing live action with like CGI and stuff. It got me thinking about District 9. Have you ever seen District 9?
Yes.
Do you know that was Neil Blomkamp's first ever movie?
Really?
Yeah, he came out of the gate fucking swinging with District 9. District 9 is an incredible movie.
That's a really good movie.
And the dude that plays Vicus, like the main character.
Oh, South Africa? What's that
yeah,
one?
South Africa, yeah. That was his first ever like acting role.
Really?
Yeah. And he just fucking nailed it.
See, I think that it would probably be beneficial if more like actors were given a shot right out of the gate like that.
Yeah.
It's like if you don't like bring in like somebody that's big.
Yeah.
Like just get who you think would be the best fit for the role.
Right.
And just roll with it. Just go with that person, Yeah,
because I feel like a lot of times when you bring in the like actors that are kind of like established, they kind of bring in their own little flavor.
Right.
That they have in like all movies.
Right.
But when you have somebody who's kind of just, fresh and new.
Right.
I feel like that makes it easier for the audience to kind of connect with the character.
Right.
Rather than seeing, I wanted to say Brad Pitt, but the first name that came to my mind was Patton Oswalt.
Patton Oswalt.
I don't know what it was.
Those two could not be any more different.
I know. But if you had like Brad Pitt playing a character, it's kind of hard to see it as just the character and not Brad Pitt playing a character.
Right.
Just because he's so, he's so famous and you see him in so many things.
It'd be like if you have Angelina Jolie do anything like that. You're looking at Angelina Jolie like you can only suspend your disbelief so far.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it helps if you don't know this person.
You're right. Yeah.
It puts you more into the movie.
One thing that I thought was really cool, about District 9 was, number one, it's a really cool fucking concept, right? Like aliens show up on Earth, but they can't leave, and so they, kind of just put them in a
ghetto,
in like a ghetto essentially. And it's very clear that they're analogous for like immigrants,
right?
That was a very clear allegory, whatever you want to call it, but it was done really, really well. But the way that they shot the scenes was they, up until that point when they were shooting like live action movies with like a CGI guy or whatever. Think like, what's a good example? Think like the Hulk movie, the first one.
Ugh.
Right. You could tell like the way that they're composing the shots, like they're already thinking in their head like, okay, this is where the Hulk has to be.
Right.
And then this is where Liv Tyler is.
Right.
So you've got to pretend that Hulk's there, and then that's why the shot is so fucking big.
Yeah.
So that we can add him in post.
Yeah.
Well, with District 9, they would have an actor act out the part that the alien would then be, put in post production, and like they would wear like those those trackball suits or whatever, but they would just shoot it like a normal scene.
No.
And then put the alien on top of it.
Right.
And it makes all of those scenes seem like that's what makes it seem so real.
Right. It seems more like he's actually having that conversation.
Right. Yeah. Because the first half of that movie is kind of filmed like a documentary.
Right. And
all of those shots are being shot, as just somebody would be recording something as it was happening, rather than a shot, that you could tell we panned way back so we could get the whole alien and like he's the focus of this shot.
Right.
And it's just like a couple of guys talking and then there's like an alien right here.
Right.
Like that's how that would be shot if it was a real situation.
Yeah.
So I think that, I think that has kind of set the industry standard.
Yeah.
Because everything is shot that way nowadays.
Right. Yes. Thinking of like that first Hulk movie, the thing I remember so much about that movie is how dark it was.
Well, you know why they did that.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
Not like, when I say dark, I'm not like the theme of it was dark.
No.
I mean like...
The lighting.
The lighting was very dark. Because the CGI was so fucking bad.
It is bad. The Hulk is out in the daylight at the very end of that movie, and he is just fucking lime green. He looks. He's hard to look at.
I mean, they still had some pretty cool shots in that movie.
Yeah.
One of my most favorite ones is where he takes that tank. He like takes the one tank and like smashes the other tank with it, and then like throws it and like
He throws the turret like at the helicopter or whatever. Yeah.
Like there were some pretty cool shots in that movie.
Yeah.
Like the concept of like how the Hulk would interact with like things around him.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
But like on the whole,
Yeah.
And like the worst part about that movie is where he fights those 3 like hounds at the end.
Oh, the dogs. Yeah. You can't see anything.
No.
You can't have no fucking idea what's happening.
What is going on
There's
here?
just a bunch of screaming and punching sounds.
Yeah.
And then I guess the Hulk won.
Some squelching.
Some squelching noises. They did bring up the brightness a little bit so you could get that one shot where he holds the dog up by the leg and punches it in the nuts.
you know, somebody's like, mwah.
Yeah, that's cinema, baby.
Yeah, the only part of that movie that was bright was at the end where they nuked that where he was fighting. What is it?
Oh man, what is it? I don't know what the name of the villain is, but it was his dad.
There's a name for that villain. I'm so bad with.
He's kind of a deep cut villain.
Yeah,
he's not.
Yeah, they reached down real deep on that one.
Yeah, which is kind of strange.
Abomination.
No, not Abomination.
Was it not Abomination?
Are you talking about the Edward Norton one or the one before that?
The one before that.
The one before that. No, it was. Oh man, Here, I'll have a robot say it.
Absorbing Man.
There you go. It was that guy.
Yeah.
But the one with Abomination, though, that's the one with Edward Norton. That Hulk movie I actually like.
Yes, I did like that one.
I like that one.
I thought that it was interesting that they put like a heart rate monitor on him.
Yeah.
For him to like actively be like, oh, I need to chill out.
Need to relax.
Yeah.
I like where like he lives in Brazil or something, right?
Yes.
And like he's working at like that soda bottling factory, and like those dudes are fucking with him.
Yeah.
And then like he just like kills the shit out of him as the Hulk.
Yeah. No, he was like a doctor down there, wasn't he?
You're thinking of Mark Ruffalo. He was a doctor down there in the first Avengers film.
Oh, I don't fucking know anymore.
Yeah. No, down there he was working in a bottling factory.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And they wanted to
as a doctor.
Yeah. They wanted to get him and get his blood so they could make a super soldier serum.
Right.
And then that one dude took it and he became Abomination.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
One of the best things that ever came out of that movie, though, was the Hulk Ultimate Destruction video game for the Nintendo GameCube.
Yes.
That game was
so
so
good.
much fucking fun because it gave you it was what you wanted to do as the Hulk.
Right.
I wanted to destroy shit.
Right.
They're like, well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's what the whole game is.
Yeah, that was a good one. There's been so many like good like superhero video games. Like I remember the I can't remember if it was for the GameCube or not, but there was the Spider-Man one that came out that had Dr. Octopus in it, and that one was really good. That's the one where you're running away from Carnage at the end of it.
Oh, like through the little hallway or whatever?
Yeah, where it's like you're like running down the hallway, they just like shoot up. And
Yeah, that was before the GameCube. That's the N64.
Was that 64?
Yeah, and
or was it PlayStation? PlayStation 2 we had it for.
Oh, it might have been PlayStation.
Yeah.
I know that it was before the GameCube because I remember the end of that game.
No.
Because Dr. Octopus and Carnage fuse.
Yes,
and they make
that's right.
The scariest fucking thing that I had ever seen up to that point in my life. And it's chasing you it's like on your tail. It's like you are just barely ahead of this thing as it's chasing you, and it's making like these awful like screeching, squelching noises. And I'm a little fucking kid, and I'm like up to this point,
the anxiety.
Yeah, this game was not scary up until this point. Why all of a sudden is it horrifying? I like the one that came out on GameCube though was the one where it was kind of like open world New York City where you could swing.
Oh yeah,
and it had not Norm Macdonald, but the narrator wasn't Norm Macdonald, but it was somebody that sounded like him.
Yes, I know which one you're talking about.
But they also had Tobey Maguire do the voice for Peter Parker.
Right.
And he phoned it in so much on that fucking game. I like because like there's a famous one like because there's like these little mini missions you can do in that game where you work as like the pizza delivery guy.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you go over to the pizza parlor and you pick up the pizzas and you're supposed to swing, like, Spider-Man through the city and deliver the pizzas. And Tobey Maguire does his line read, but he's just like, I have to deliver these pizzas on time. You're just like, wow, dude. Just fucking sign my name on the check and get me the fuck out of here.
There's so many... The Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies has so many good, like, one-liners in them.
That reminds me.
Like out of all the superhero movies, there's so many good one-liners in those.
We when we were down there, we heard that song "Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head," and me and Steven could not figure out which Spider-Man movie that's from. I want to say that's from 2, but I can't even tell you like what scene happens after. Is it after he quote unquote loses his powers? Because that's the second movie, I'm pretty sure.
I just watched these. That would have been the second one, because the third one is when the symbiote gets on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would have been the second one.
And they play Get On Up.
Yes. Yeah.
He's doing finger guns.
There's so many... Like, I think that as far as casting is concerned, I feel like they really hit it out of the park on those ones, with the exception of Topher Grace.
Yeah.
Like, I think that Kirsten Dunst played a pretty good MJ.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a pretty solid choice for that. I really don't know any other person that's, as far as like a redhead's concerned, that you could have stuck in the MJ role.
Now, I don't know how I feel about James Franco in that movie.
Is it that you don't know how you feel about James Franco because you know him now as James Franco?
Well,
or as James Franco then without knowing...
It's his performance in that movie.
Yeah.
Well, it's a kind of a combination of his performance and also the scenes that they wrote for him.
Right.
Like, what the fuck is up with the butler coming up and just giving him expository dialogue for
that
15 minutes? What was that?
Yeah.
He's like, you know, he's kind of like moping around this mansion, and all of a sudden this butler that's never been in any of the movies,
we've never introduced this person.
He shows up and he's like, hey, here's that exposition you ordered. Let me explain everything that the audience already knows to you.
Yeah, he's like, I cleaned your father's wounds.
Yeah.
It's like, you could have fucking told me that 3 years ago.
Yeah, before I got my face blown off. It's like, your father loved you and Spider-Man didn't kill him. And it's like, I don't even know. Who are you?
Thanks for telling me now.
Yeah. I have such an issue with expository dialogue. It's like one of my biggest pet peeves. It's sometimes it's necessary, like for world building purposes.
Right.
Like, okay, a good example of exposition is at the beginning of Fellowship of the Ring.
Well, it's necessary.
Where they're talking about Sauron and fighting, what's his face? The guy, the Human King. What was his name?
Oh, shit. I used to know all these names.
Arwen?
Erwin?
Erwin?
Yeah, I think it might be Erwin.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's quite a bit of exposition, but it's just enough for just long enough,
right,
to set up the story, and then there's never any exposition ever again. Right. Everything that you see past that is like you're all learning it at the exact same time.
Right.
But some of the worst exposition that I've ever seen was in that movie Moonfall. I don't know if you ever saw Moonfall.
Well, who's in it?
It's who is in it? It's got Michael Peña's in it.
What's the premise?
the moon has like a alien worm living inside of it, and it attacks a spaceship that flew past it.
No.
And then they go up to the moon, and then the moon's like hollow on the inside.
It's made of cheese.
It's so stupid. It might as well have been. That movie was so fucking dumb. I remember I was complaining about that movie to Chris. He was like, "Let me guess, the moon is a guy," and I was like, "It's not unfair to say that." That movie's dumb. But they're trying to figure out like, oh, we need to get up, we need to go to the moon and stop the moon, and like the lady's like. She's poking around in like the server room trying to get data on the top secret mission. Out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, I'm going to hack into the mainframe.
Yeah, out of fucking nowhere, this dude rolls literally out of the shadows in a wheelchair. Like in an electric wheelchair.
like Dr. Xavier.
Yeah, he just like out of the shadows. And he just fucking delivers exposition for like 20 minutes. And then he leaves, and you never see him again. He just showed up to explain the plot to the audience, not to the character.
No.
The characters just happened to be there.
Like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
They're like still doing shit in the background. Like,
yeah.
He's just like talking out into the distance.
Or like into the camera.
Yeah.
Now here's why this is happening. 10 years ago, there was this, blah, blah. Yeah. Yeah, it just annoys me.
Yeah, we were talking about. It's like right before I left to come over here. We'd put on we were watching like it's like Major Payne or something like that, and then so I turned it off so that we could start getting ready for bed, and I saw another movie flash up like on the screen, and I had totally forgotten about this movie, and it's a horrible movie, one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's Gods of Egypt. It's got the guy that plays Jaime Lannister. And it also has Gerard Butler. Yeah. And they're like, one is Ra, and the other one is like another Egyptian god or whatever.
Like Anubis or something?
Anubis or whatever. Yeah. And so, but they're like, halfway through the movie, like they're like talking to one another, like they're like fighting one another and like talking like, it was like this big, like.
Big banter or whatever.
Big banter or whatever. Yeah. And so, and then like halfway through the movie, it's like, they come down to Earth, and they're like 50 fucking feet tall. And it's the weirdest fucking thing. I don't know how they shot this. Because it looks like they're just standing there like this, and there's like little people. It's like Gulliver's Travels.
Like Lilliputians.
Yeah, and they're like fighting one another and like stepping on all these fucking people. I was like, what a fucking stupid movie.
It's like they just did that to like artificially inflate the stakes.
Right.
Like all of a sudden there's like, oh, people are involved now. Right. Yeah.
And like, and they very much do like the old gods type deal or whatever, where it's like, who gets to enslave these people?
Yeah. So who are we rooting for here?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, really, there's no good guy here. Yeah. There's really no stakes because you're fucked either way.
Yeah. So. Oh, man.
Yeah, that was a really, really shitty movie. Shame on you, Gerard.
Shame on you.
You should know better.
Speaking of Gerard Butler, do you remember when it was one summer they released two movies that were basically the exact same movie, and one was Gerard Butler who has to save the president when the White House is attacked. And then the other movie was Channing Tatum, who has to save the president when the White House was attacked.
Yes.
And both of those movies came out within
same movie.
Within like a month of one another.
Right.
What was that about? Why did that happen?
I wonder, it had to have been like a bet between like two directors, but like
who can do it better or who can get it out first?
Yeah. It's like, all right, here's the deal. We both have the same premise. It's like one of us has to use Gerard Butler and the other person has to use Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
It's like, and the White House is under attack.
Yeah. And the president is black.
Right. And one of them was like Danny Glover and the other one was fucking shit. Not Chris Rock.
Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx, right.
Jamie Foxx was the president, and God, those movies run together so bad. Jamie Foxx was the one with Channing Tatum.
Yes.
No, the president wasn't black in the one with Gerard Butler. Morgan Freeman was in that movie, but he was like the national security guy.
That's right. That's right.
The president was a dude who plays Two-Face.
Yes.
I can't remember what that guy's name is, though. But yeah, I remember that those movies were like...
It was really shitty.
It was really shitty.
It was awful.
And I'm guessing that the Gerard Butler one wasn't quite as shitty because they made two more. They made the one.
Yeah, it was like Olympus Has Fallen. And
London Has Fallen was one, and then there was another one.
Yeah, he got on like the same like Liam Neeson train there for a while. He kept making the same fucking movie over and over again. Like Liam Neeson only makes one kind of movie now.
Yeah,
is that somebody has been kidnapped.
Yeah,
and he has to go fight some like Romanian Armenians,
some Eastern Bloc fucking terrorists. Some Bosnians.
In like some slum over there or something.
Did you ever see The Gray?
That's actually a really good movie. I like that movie.
Up until the end.
Yeah,
up until the stupid fucking end.
Yeah, where he like cracks a bunch of like... like has a bunch of like mini bar like Smirnoffs.
Yeah, like duct tapes to his fists, and he's gonna have like a bar fight with these fucking Arctic wolves. He's just like, bring it on, wolves.
Oh god,
they should have went the whole way, and they should have blown their fucking wide. And filmed the fight rather than cutting to black.
Right. I think that as far as like my most favorite movies are concerned, and I'm getting ready to show my age a little bit, is that probably my most favorite movie of all time is Boondock Saints. And I don't think it's even close. Just because I love the two guys that did the acting in the movie.
Yeah.
And I love the guy that did Rocco.
Yeah. There's that movie has a ton of charm.
Oh yeah.
Because it was Troy Duffy's first like film.
Right.
And there's so many every time
it's such a cult classic.
Yeah. Every time I watch that movie I see another like flub.
Right.
Like something that he messed up on because he was an amateur director at the time. But yeah, I fucking love that movie.
Because some of the shit that he does is so over the top.
Yeah.
And he lets you know that he knows that it's over the top. Like him dropping the toilet.
Yeah.
Like off of that fucking like 7-story building.
Yeah.
And him jumping on the other guy.
Or when they fall out of the ceiling and they're like back to back, tied up on the rope, spinning and shooting.
Right.
I also love that movie because fucking Willem Dafoe's in it, and
Willem Dafoe is a fan. Yeah. He steals the show in that movie.
I just love anything that Willem Dafoe's in.
Yes.
Did you ever see The Lighthouse? With Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson.
Is that the one where he's like he's like all the memes of him in it? Where he's like got that big beard.
Yeah.
And he's wearing like a sailor's outfit or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never seen it. I know the memes.
It's really good. It's really, really, really good. It's kind of it's very artsy.
Yeah.
Of course, it's shot in black and white, but it's also kind of technologically it's a really impressive movie. But one of my favorite scenes is where him and Robert Pattinson are like drunk, and Willem Dafoe is like really kind of like upset that Robert Pattinson's character doesn't like his cooking. And so like he stands up and he delivers like this enormous like over the top monologue calling down Poseidon to damn him to head like Davy Jones' locker for not liking his cooking. And like any other movie, that scene would be like the cinema gold standard. But the fact that he's doing it because the other guy doesn't like his cooking, it's just like, all right. I kind of feel like we wasted this.
That's a good one, and I think Fight Club is always gonna be like top 10 for me.
Yeah.
It's such a really, really good movie. It's based off a book, which that helped in character development and everything. I feel like most movies that were written off books do a lot better because that person has had a longer period of time to work with those characters.
There's a lot to work with, yeah.
But another really, really good one that I don't think gets enough love is American History X.
Really, I have actually never seen American History X.
That is a fantastic movie.
I've heard
got
that it's
to watch
really
it.
good. Yeah.
It is really good. And Edward Norton does a fantastic job in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so does the kid from Terminator. What's his name?
What, the one that plays John Connor?
Yes.
Oh, I would never remember that.
I don't remember what his name is, and he does a really, really good job too.
Yeah.
But that is a really, really good movie.
I'm a big Tarantino guy. I love Quentin Tarantino's films.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that my favorite Tarantino movie it has to be a toss-up between Pulp Fiction and Django Unchained.
Django Unchained is really good.
I know those are two wildly different movies, but both of them kind of alone. Like, whereas Pulp Fiction is kind of a collection of stories,
Right.
and Django is more like from begin to end, one story about one character or whatever. But that being said, I think that Inglourious Bastards has the best opening scene.
I've never seen that movie.
Have you never seen Inglourious Bastards?
Never seen it.
So the opening scene is Christoph Waltz, his character.
I love Christoph Waltz.
He's like a Jew hunter.
No.
It's like it's Nazi Germany or whatever.
No.
And he goes to like this house like out in the French countryside, and like that scene just builds tension and like just the whole thing. I mean, it's golden. It's cinema golden standard.
No.
That one scene at the beginning of that movie is just fucking mwah.
No.
It's perfect.
Well, and he's definitely one of those too. Like if he it immediately.
Yeah.
Like even if you didn't know that he was the person that directed it, as soon as you sat down and the movie started, you'd be like, Tarantino.
Yeah.
I know exactly who this is. Right.
Yeah. You also have to kind of put aside the fact that he's got a weird foot fetish.
With Selma Hayek,
And
where he wrote that part where she was pouring champagne down her leg.
What?
Yeah, there's I don't remember which one this was in. So Selma Hayek played like a bartender in one of the Tarantino movies.
Yeah.
And the premise of this scene was that she was pouring champagne down her leg, and it was like running off of her foot, and that somebody was like drinking the champagne
off of her foot,
and he's the person doing it.
Oh, come on!
He wrote that role specifically for himself.
Oh God. Tarantino, come on, man. That's a little bit on the nose, don't you think?
Well, the only way I can get this champagne off is if I suck it off your boobs.
It's part of the movie, I swear. I swear it's integral to the plot. Up next, I have a 10-minute scene where Niecy Nash sits on my face.
Oh.
There was some discourse on Twitter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you can believe it. Last week, there was a TV show that came out, or it was a cartoon show called Total Drama Island. Like, I want to say maybe 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
It was really popular, but it was kind of at the time where I was moving away from that kind of stuff. So I never really watched it. But they have since rebooted it, and they're doing like a new season or whatever. And there is a whole episode about the characters passing gas, the female characters specifically.
Yeah.
And there's another character who smells them do it. And I've just seen clips out of context.
No?
I don't know if it would be any better with context, but it seems a little fetishy to me. Just the way it's presented.
No. And this is aimed at children?
I don't know about children. Maybe like teens?
Oh, great. One more thing teens have to deal with now.
So, yeah, still not exactly great, but...
Yeah.
Well, when that happened, people were posting this other thing that was like 2 skunk characters in like a Disney cartoon,
No.
which obviously would be aimed at children. And it was these 2 skunks, and they were like farting really loudly and sniffing each other's farts. And like one of them was like, oh. And the scene was like 5 minutes long.
Yeah, well.
And you're just like, you got some writer on your staff
No.
is like
A real degenerate.
is a real degenerate. Like, so this is their fetish,
Yeah.
and they have barely disguised it in your your TV
Right.
show here. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Disney has a very checkered past.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Donald Duck was part of the Third Reich.
It's actually interesting that you mentioned that. While we were down in New Orleans, we went to the World War II Museum, and they had a new like section, and it was all World War II propaganda that Disney did.
Really?
Yeah, and so it was really cool to look at all that stuff, and like, one thing that me and Steven noticed was like, man, they really zeroed in on Donald Duck for this stuff. Like,
What's going on here?
yeah, why Donald Duck? Like all these other characters, like they would have like propaganda posters of like Mickey and Goofy and Donald like hitchhiking to get to work, or like carpooling to get to work. Save gas. The troops need the gas.
Yeah.
Blah blah. That thing. Ration your food or whatever. But everything that was like like squinty-eyed, buck-toothed Japanese people getting blown up, it was Donald Duck doing it. And you're like, why Donald Duck though?
Yeah, like Donald Duck was blowing them up.
Yeah, it was like Donald Duck was like dropping bombs on people, and like when you
I guess because he wears a sailor outfit. I mean,
maybe, yeah, he was the only one that was enlisted, right?
Yeah.
The area where they had all this stuff was kind of like a horseshoe shape, so you walk in one side, you come around the other, and at the end of it all, there was a that specific cartoon that you're talking about where he was like making bombs or whatever in like the Hitler factory.
No.
It was like a dream sequence. Like he wakes up,
Right.
and he's like sleeping with like a stuffed Statue of Liberty or whatever. But that episode won an Emmy, I think.
Really?
I think it was an Emmy. It was some kind of award. They had the award on display next to like the all the different information for that particular cartoon. But one thing that really stood out to me was a Disney drawing of Hitler that Disney did, like Walt Disney did, and it was like a sketch of like Hitler standing there and like a side profile of like his face, like in the Disney style. And I was like, I want to take a picture of this so bad, but they wouldn't let you take pictures of anything in there. I guess because it was all copyrighted.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well, I know that Disney did a bunch of propaganda, and I know that Dr. Seuss, before he got started writing like Cat in the Hat and stuff, he did World War II propaganda.
Really?
So there's a bunch of like drawings that he did. Some of them are very racist.
Oh, I would imagine.
Towards the Japanese people.
I would imagine, yeah. Well, we mainly were in conflict with
Japan. Right.
That like was we, the U.S.
Right.
Yeah. That's where most of our ire was directed.
Right.
But it's fucking Popeye, Popeye the Sailor Man. Yeah. That is. Well, the famous one is "You're a sap, Mr. Jap."
Yeah.
Where he comes up on their boat and it's just like these like Coke bottle glasses, big buck teeth, squinty eyed like Japanese people. That
he just starts punching everybody.
And he's just like, yeah, he's like, he punches him in the face, and you're like, yeah, fuck him up, Popeye.
Oh God.
It was funny that it really, the artistic integrity is really dependent on, who's paying the bills.
Yeah, the time period.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to think like we go from that to like Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Yeah.
and like Carl.
Like, could you imagine if they were like, if they needed like fucking Aqua Teen Hunger Force propaganda for like it's a war in Ukraine or some shit. You have like Carl flying like a fucking jet.
He's like, how do you work this fucking thing?
How do you work this fucking thing? Take that, you fucking asshole. Yeah.
Speaking of the war in Ukraine, did you hear where that guy from the Pentagon leaked all that information?
I saw something about that. They found it on. They found the Ukrainian army's like Discord. Is that what it was?
He released the information on Discord. So essentially, it was. I want to say he was an airman. So he was part of the Air Force, I believe. And this could be incorrect. I'm not exactly sure what branch he was part of. He's like 21 years old, and he was like an intelligence officer.
Yeah.
And he leaked a bunch of information on Discord.
Mm.
And he did not retract anything. So he just leaked documents.
Like the whole shebang.
Straight up documents.
Wow.
And come to find out, we have 100 plus troops on the ground in Ukraine that are running operations, like actively attacking.
Like U.S. forces are
Yes,
over there? Wow.
Russian targets.
Oh, boy.
So
it's no longer a proxy war anymore.
No more secrets, I guess.
There's U.S. troops over there shooting at Russians.
Right.
Great.
It's kind of amazing to me that we still, especially too, like there's not more outrage as far as, protection that whistleblowers get. For that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's not going to get any protection.
No.
Because
they're going to suicide him.
Because he's in the military. And you don't get protection from shit in the military.
No.
Like, you signed your life away. But like the Edward Snowden thing and like all that.
Yeah.
Like
John McAfee.
John McAfee and who's the other guy, the WikiLeaks guy?
Julian Assange.
Julian Assange.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very amazed that like we still are not more actively like protecting whistleblowers.
Yeah.
Because the three of them certainly did not get protected at all.
No. I think that a lot of the problem is that a lot of the stuff that gets like, that they blow the whistle on is very high level. That like a lot of, even, speaking for myself, a lot of it goes over my head as far as like what it actually means. Like if they could do a better job of, translating what this means to the layman,
right,
to the everyday American, and how it's going to negatively affect them or how it's already negatively affecting them.
Right.
You have to put it in terms that they can understand. I think that's why a lot of times when they leak this stuff, it's it's huge, it's big, but the majority of the populace doesn't understand it.
Right.
And I think that's why it loses a lot of its steam.
Well, I think that's why I remember when I was pretty computer illiterate when the Snowden stuff came out. So all of that really went over my fucking head. Like I had no idea what the fuck they were talking about.
That was pretty early on too. That was like what, 2000 something?
That was like 2013 because I remember like being on the ship when it happened.
Yeah.
And then so like when they came out with like the NSA spying stuff and all that.
Yeah.
And so I remember like after like when I was in college going through my degree track or whatever, like it was interesting to me to go back and reread through it. Like, I'm actively working with like computer programming and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you have a little bit more of like
yeah, and especially like with some of like the ethical hacking stuff that like got taught or whatever, like using like packet sniffing. Like this is very like rudimentary, like that kind of stuff. So to kind of see what they were able to do as far as like creating like a database and like filling all this information and then using that information to be able to like search for people specifically and be able to like access specific information on these individuals.
Right. Like
that's pretty fucking wild. And it's also pretty wild that like essentially that they've used like social media to really like they don't have to get that information anymore. Like they just
let's give it to them.
People just give it out freely now. You know, it's like we've talked about before. It's like when like you see like somebody, it's like what's your
garlic bread name?
Yeah, what's your garlic bread name? It's like what's the three numbers on the back of your credit card and your home address.
Yeah, upload a picture of your house to find out which Golden Girl you are. I saw something. I didn't really look into it. I don't know if maybe you know more about it, but they found clandestine Chinese police stations in the United States.
Really? I didn't know that.
Like operating like above like a noodle shop or something in New York.
It wouldn't. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
But I don't know what that means. What does that mean? A Chinese police station? Like
that probably means that they're policing Chinese people
here, like Chinese citizens here.
Definitely. Oh yeah. Like apparently, from what I've heard, is that, I mean, this could be total bullshit, but is that essentially like the Chinese government will actively send people over to the U.S. Like they'll be like, go over there, and like they'll send them over, and like they'll be like, we need you to get into a good school. We need you to, like, your kids are going to do well. Like we're gonna make sure that they're able to get into college. Like all this is funded. Yeah. And like they'll send them through. So essentially they're just sleeper agents. And so that's what I've heard. I don't know if this is fact or not. Honestly,
I believe it. I believe it.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. It's I mean, this is what happens in communist dictatorships. I mean, they're willing to do whatever the fuck it takes.
Right.
So I mean, like I said, to be honest with you, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. So, I mean, if you're saying that they have like police stations, I'm assuming that they're like, no, the Chinese people that are actively living over here, like if you are first generation Chinese American, like you still belong to us.
So they have them like over there, like watching them, making sure they're not like becoming Americanized, maybe. Right. Yeah. Not going to a 4th of July party. Yeah.
Are you going to a baseball game?
Yeah. When I read it, I was like, the whole thing, clandestine Chinese police station makes it seem like they put a Chinese police station just in the wrong country on accident. That's kind of what it seemed like.
Like an actual police station.
Yeah. I just like imagine there's like a bunch of like rookie Chinese police officers over here just like, what are we supposed to be doing?
They've got like the strap with the gun on the side, like smoking cigarettes.
It's a pretty sweet gig.
I mean, I would assume that it's probably very undercover, and it was probably like they're probably running it like underground.
Oh yeah,
and they're probably checking up on people.
Yeah, they probably didn't have like badge numbers.
Right,
and, like,
they're probably like, I don't know, beating the shit out of people.
Yeah,
or like
hanging them up by their toenails.
Yeah, sending them back to the homeland.
Yeah,
so that they can deal with them.
So that they can hang them up by the toenails. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, every time I learn or hear about some new thing that, like, you know, not just China, but
some
whatever,
horrific man-made horror.
Yeah, whatever country it is, like, oh, we discovered that, you know, there's Kazakhstani, like, sleeper agents disguised as rhinoceroses running around Montana. I'm just like, yeah, that tracks.
Yeah.
And then I go and I read a new thing.
Yeah.
I just like there's just so much shit happening.
Yeah,
it's hard to keep up with any of it.
Right. I mean, there's too much information coming at you all the time in order for you to really be like, well, this is or is not true.
Right.
Like, you really have to be very specific about like the sources in which you kind of gather information from.
Yeah.
Like, which is hard because nobody really has a good track record right now.
Yeah, and they are actively scrubbing things from the internet that make a certain political party look bad.
Right.
Which I think happens every 4 years. Whoever the next one comes in, like you're gonna have if you're gonna have like a Republican, which by the way, if a Republican is elected next year, I think it's gonna be DeSantis.
Is it next year? Good God. Yeah, it will be next year.
Yeah.
It was 23 this year.
I think it's going to be DeSantis. But the only reason I think that wouldn't happen is because Floridians feel that he abandoned them to go on the campaign trail. Because he was down there and they loved him so much because he was like a fucking psychopath down there. And they adore that shit down
there. A real
there.
Florida man.
Yeah, it really connects with them. What it's going to end up being is it's going to be DeSantis and Trump having a pissing contest.
Right. That's most likely that's what's going to happen.
And they're not going to get anywhere.
Right.
And then whoever the DNC chooses or has already chosen will win it.
It'll just be more of whatever the status quo is, and we'll just drive it deeper into the fucking earth.
Yep. And they're going to keep printing money.
Yep.
And it's not going to be worth anything. The groceries are going to get more expensive, and gas is going to get more expensive, and crime is going to get worse. Social discourse is going to get worse. They're going to put a tranny on Cuervo so we can yell about that.
Speaking of which, I guess Bud Light has been getting knocked around here pretty recently.
I haven't really looked into it that much. Somebody told me that they had lost a bunch of money. I don't know how true that is.
I think they were down $6 billion.
With a B?
Yeah. I mean, they're a $100 billion company, so... But still, $6 billion is a lot of money.
6% of their fucking money. $6 billion is nothing to
right. Well,
tuck your wiener at.
I don't think that the sales numbers are quite out yet.
Yeah.
I think that this is still very much...
It's still kind of new.
It's still very much based on speculation in the stock market. So until like the actual sales numbers get ready to come forward for the quarter,
right?
I don't know that we're really going to know much.
Well, anytime that there's controversy, people tend to pull their money out, regardless of what that controversy may mean.
Right.
Yeah.
And, and the more I got to thinking about it, the more I was like, so I guess essentially what had happened was that Bud Light, for those that don't know, essentially gave like some like commemorative cans or something to Dylan Mulvaney, which in my opinion, is not actually a trans person.
Yeah.
I think that Dylan Mulvaney, if I've done some more research on this person.
They're pretending to be a trans person.
Yes. So it's very narcissistic person.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Price is Right episode where he gets up and screams and runs around and flails on the floor and acts like a fucking asshole?
No.
Yeah. So this person has been actively trying to gain fame for quite some time. And so there's...
By whatever means necessary.
By whatever means necessary. And he figured out the algorithm that if you say that you're trans, that it gets more hits, like, right?
Yeah.
So in the current whatever social sphere that he's in, so which is TikTok, which is very left-leaning, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So this person, Dylan Mulvaney, they gave these commemorative cans to. And so this was the brainchild of their marketing VP that they hired, I think, like a year ago.
Yeah.
And so she went on like this podcast or whatever and stated that they needed to update who their clientele was.
Why? Why do you need to update your clientele? You have a very
and,
loyal fan base.
Right,
here.
and so she was essentially like, it's very like frat boy, like whatever.
Yeah.
And like, and number one, like when I think of Bud Light, I don't think of like frat boy. What I think of is like
someone's dad.
Is like blue collar.
Yeah.
Like has been like working like a manual labor job all day long.
Yeah.
And like goes to a bar and has a beer. Like that's the clientele I think of. Like
right.
when I think of Bud Light. Right. So.
A frat boy is drinking like PBR.
Right. This is drinking like a Busch.
Yeah.
Busch Light or like Natty Light or something like that. So I think that number one, had they not used Dylan Mulvaney, had they used, because number one, no, there's that person is very contentious, and a lot of people don't fucking like Dylan.
Yeah.
And I think if they would have used just like a normal, like a regular trans person, and just been like, and not been like, oh, we're trying to update the image. Instead, if they were like, if they gave it to like a trans person,
like an actual trans person,
and like their messaging was, Bud Light is for
everyone.
It's for everyone.
Yeah.
We want to be the every person's beer.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Instead of being like giving it to this person that's obviously a fucking narcissistic piece of shit.
Got a lot of heat on him right now.
Got a lot of heat on him right now. Like they could have played that much differently than they did, and I think there still would have been backlash about it, but not like they're getting right now.
No,
I think a lot of it is specific to Dylan.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think that it's not so much the fact that it is a trans person; it's that particular trans person.
Right.
Yeah, that guy is an issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just because it's. To me, it seems it's very obvious what Dylan is doing.
Yeah.
Dylan is grifting off of the trans community and is making a bunch of money doing so.
A bunch of money. Yeah. That video that I sent you of him on Drew Barrymore's show is the dumbest fucking thing I have ever seen in my entire life.
Is it what you sent me this evening?
What did I send you this evening?
You sent me something. I don't know if that was the text, but I have seen what you're talking about.
Oh, no. The thing I sent you this evening is a tweet where Sony purchased the rights to Angry Birds from Rovio.
Oh, really?
And they have the red bird playing Smash or Pass on, like, as if he were a Twitch streamer. It's real. That's what I sent you. But no, I was talking about
who the fuck in their marketing department?
No,
they must have hired that Bud Light girl.
Yeah. The part specifically in Drew Barrymore's show where she gets down on her knees.
It's so fucking.
And she puts her hands in Dylan's hands, and she goes, you know who's mean to me more than anything? Myself. I'm just like, oh my God. Ugh. Shut the fuck up.
It's so like pretentious and fucking.
It's so fucking my feet me.
Yeah, it's so fucking pretentious. It's just so fucking. It's just so fucking self-absorbed. I just can't. Like I
texted that to you, and he said, "What is this Hunger Games capital city bullshit?"
That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, it's exactly what
exactly what it fucking looks like.
Yeah.
So, and like I don't.
It's so disingenuous.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see fucking right through it.
Yeah.
I know exactly what the fuck it is you're doing.
Yeah.
It's like you're getting all these fucking stay-at-home fucking moms and dads that have anything better to do on a Tuesday at fucking 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, a real primetime slot you got there, Drew.
And she's in there fucking talking to fucking Dylan over here, and she's like, you know who's the meanest to me is myself. And I need to talk myself down all the time. And it's like, shut the fuck up.
What are we doing here?
Fucking shut up.
What is this fucking... It's just big fucking circle jerk over here.
Yeah, it's like, and like, it seems to me like a lot of people want to fucking self-psychoanalyze now.
Yeah.
And
like, self-diagnosed.
Yeah, self-diagnosed. It's, you know how many people I see? Oh, I have ADHD. No, the fuck you don't.
No.
You know what you have? You're a piece of shit.
No.
That's what your fucking problem is. You fucking asshole.
You're a piece of shit. Is what you have.
I'm sorry, that shit makes me so fucking mad.
Yeah.
Like, these people that sit there and it's like they act like they got it so fucking hard, and that bitch got her start in E.T. when she was like 3. She's never had a fucking hard day in her fucking life, comparatively to like people who are out, the fucking school teachers and fucking
people ditch digging.
Yeah, ditch diggers.
Yeah.
And fucking cowboys.
Yeah.
Like, people get kicked by fucking horses.
Yeah, people whose hands are just one big blister.
Yeah.
With 5 fingernails on it.
And then you want to sit there and talk about how mean you are.
How hard your fucking life is.
Yeah, how hard you got it.
Because your biggest enemy is yourself.
Yeah, shut up.
Shut your fucking mouth. You go sit here and talk to this guy that just doesn't even respect you.
Yeah. Who is actively like making fun of you.
Yeah. There's a woman face.
Yeah, I can't fucking do it. I don't understand. I don't get how more people just can't see through the facade.
Yeah.
Is it that
it's annoying? It's because there's a lot of social currency in buying into this shit right now. But why do you care? You know, what does it matter to you? Why is it so important to you to be accepted by that group?
Right.
I don't get that.
Like, if somebody came out and was like, just stuck a fucking dress on, and it's like, what the fuck is Bob doing? And he's like, fuck you, I'm gonna wear this dress.
Yeah.
And like, get the fuck over it.
Yeah.
You're like, okay,
cool. All right, Bob, fine.
Do you.
Yeah. And Drew Barrymore's just like, you're just like me, Bob. You know exactly what it's like to live the life that I've lived.
Yeah.
What with my periods and my ovaries.
I just don't. I mean, I get like being empathetic towards. I don't do it much, but like I understand like having empathy, but I do feel that it goes too far sometimes.
Well, it's important to have empathy.
It's
important.
Yes.
It's important to have empathy, and it's important to consider the other person. And consider the fact that they live a different life than you do. But you do also have to call out bullshit when you see it.
Right, because if you don't actively call out bullshit, if you allow your contemporaries to continue to not call out bullshit, and you get mad when they call out bullshit,
then
you're going to have a bunch of bullshitters that are going to take over what it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And it's going to cause more harm to what it is that you're trying to do than if you would actively let the people who will call out the bullshit, just let them fucking do it. Yeah. It's important to have people that will say, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, you're
that's
full
wrong.
of shit.
You're full of shit. That's wrong.
Yeah, you're a grifter. Yeah. I see what it is that you're doing.
And not
because I think that there are some people that are more in tune with it than others.
Yeah,
I think that there are some people that spotted a fucking mile away. I see exactly what the fuck it is you're doing.
Yeah,
and other people want to see the best in folks. I get it because we had a fucking grandmother that was the exact same fucking way.
Oh yeah.
Never had a bad word to say about anybody until after she had that stroke.
Well, yeah, after she had her stroke, the honesty started to flow.
Right.
And you want to talk about catharsis. A lot of that was fun to hear. A lot of it was fun to witness. You know how badly you got to fuck up to have somebody say, get away from me, I hate you.
Right.
When they're dying.
Right.
You really got to look at yourself.
I mean, I think the craziest thing to me was that right there at the end, right before she passed, I remember there's a specific person that walked in the door, and I heard an audible groan from my grandmother. And then 5 minutes later, she was gone. Like, get me the fuck out of here.
I'm out of here. I'm done. I can't see that person enter my home one more time. Oh, boy.
Oh.
Well, I think that's about all we got time for today, everybody. Real quick, I want to apologize for missing last week's upload. I was feeling a little under the weather, but I feel relatively normal now. I feel rested and recharged from my vacation. And
there we go.
sorry to break our upload streak. We had a good one going there for a minute. But yeah, so thank you everybody for listening. If you guys are enjoying the podcast, make sure you leave us a like, a rating, and a review on whichever your preferred podcast platform is. And I just remembered, we were going to do an advice column thing where we were going to look up an advice post.
We'll start that next week.
Next week, we'll do that. What we're going to do is we're going to look on the r/advice subreddit. Right. We're going to pick one that's probably funny, and then me and Wesley will give our unsolicited advice.
Right. We will do that as soon as we will pick the one that we're going to do next week. As soon as we get done recording here, we will make the decision, and then we will have time to think about it.
Yeah. And we will also have a Super Cringe Thursday post for you guys next week. So we'll be back on track. It'll be like nothing ever changed.
Right.
So do you have anything you'd like to close with?
Nope. Just thank you for the continued support. I know that it got spicy there towards the end of this podcast.
Yeah, we got a little bit of spice.
A little bit of spice there at the end.
A little zhuzh on it.
Yeah. So, but no, just thank you for the continued support. As always, if you are enjoying the podcast, don't forget to like or subscribe or leave a rating on your preferred podcast platform. It does help with others being able to find us. And hopefully that sticker down there in New Orleans will get us some new listeners. So, if you are a new listener, because of the sticker that was left in New Orleans on that light pole, welcome.
Welcome. It's good to have you.
It's nice to have you.
There's actually more than one sticker down there.
Oh, there we go.
I put several stickers down there. All right, everybody. That's the podcast. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.